It's Kim.
And it's Corey.
And today we're back at our podcast, and we are going to be talking about a bit of this and a bit of that.
A little bit of everything today.
There is a lot going on in the world, as you know, and we have our opinions.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not always right, but we're gonna put it out there, right? The first thing we were just talking about is funny because you and I were having kind of a debate on this. And it's not a world issue by any means.
Okay.
But it was, we were talking about old school real estate versus new school like what's happening and kind of the new technologies and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And so,
like where we're going to go with it and like how, like we both have our own ideas on what we could do to change it.
Right.
I know, like, especially with like my background, I'm very like tech forward. I think we need more tech in the industry.
You're very analytical, right?
Yeah.
So me, I'm radical. I want to wake up with a world-changing idea, and that's it. We're going to do this. It's going to be something that no one's ever done before. So anything that people are doing currently, I tend to repel that type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, so we were talking about virtual tours.
Well, yeah. So like the way I see a big industry in the virtual tours or a big area that people aren't really tackling. So I just ran the numbers maybe 20 minutes ago, and of the all the listings in Windsor, Essex right now, only 22% of them are using virtual tours.
Okay.
So when I look at something like a virtual tour, it's to me it gives the buyer a little bit more of a view, and you're not wasting as much of their time. So like they get to go through and walk through all the rooms and just kind of get a preview of the house. Obviously you want to go and see the house in person.
Right.
But a lot of times you look at a picture and you're like, wow, that looks absolutely amazing. Then you go see the house in person, you're like, this is nothing like the pictures were at all. And it's just, you wasted everyone's time.
Right.
So for me, the virtual tour just kind of like, it allows you to kind of like save your time, streamline everything, and speeds up the process. There's also tech with the virtual tours where you can get blueprints of the house,
right, which I find are valuable. So we were kind of debating.
Yes.
Our virtual tours have been around for a long time. When I had my first company, Private Exchange, we were doing virtual tours like 20 years ago. And, I mean, obviously they weren't Matterport. They weren't these really high-tech virtual tours, right? But a lot of people didn't care. So I feel like, you know what, if you can message us with comments or email us, just like, do you look for the virtual tour on the listings? Do you care less about them? Are they annoying? So sometimes I'm just like, this is annoying. If they didn't do them properly, you feel like you're going around in circles on the virtual tour. I love the floor plans. Yeah. I'd like to know, and even now I see some million-plus homes that don't have the virtual tour, and I have no idea how the rooms all connect. You know what I mean? Like, is the main bedroom next to the living room? Or how far is the bathroom from, like, those things are important.
But that's where I like the virtual tour, though.
Right. But the floor plans could also be helpful there, too.
Especially when you're looking at, like, a new construction house. Like, I remember when I was a kid and we moved into a new construction house, and the blueprints were cool. It was kind of gave you, like, you start to imagine it.
Right. And the room sizes and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about video? Like, what about doing a video?
Now, video, I'm on the fence with. I don't think video is as... The nice thing with the tour is you can control where you're going. With the video, you're waiting and you're
listening to someone that's like, hey, this is Kim and Corey, and we're going to tour this house. Here's the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's
really,
stuff
that's
you
the
don't
bathroom?
really...
Yeah. Like, it has really nice faucets. It's like,
Yeah, like, what's the...
Some of those can be seriously annoying. Yeah.
And I've done a lot of the videos in the past. I can't lie. And
yeah, I've
honestly,
done them too, for sure.
No one, like, unless it's being boosted and targeted, it's not.
Or unless there's something really cool in the house, and a lot of times, people are just watching it for fun. They're not actually interested in that home. Yeah. They're just interested in the $3 million house on a video.
It's true too, but that's when I look at the statistics of it too. And anytime we've done the video, we've had the tour with it too as well. And the tour usually gets about 3 times as much viewing as the videos do.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's because people have that flexibility; they can go through it. Especially if you're an out-of-town buyer. Like, if I'm looking to buy a house
100%,
in Toronto, like, I'm not going to drive 5 hours, 4 hours, and then just like we were talking about the pictures, and it looked nothing like what it was, right? And then when we get into this technology, like the tech that's out right now, it blows my mind, because now you've got software that can 3D tour the outside of a house.
Do you think anyone's going to use the VR systems out there? It just seems too out there. Like, I'm going to send you some goggles.
I don't.
And you're a buyer. You're going to go through all these houses.
I don't think VR is going to catch on. I think AR will, though.
Oh, okay.
So augmented reality. So maybe where you're actually going to a house and you have like a set of glasses, and the glasses gives you more info on something, like, so I'm looking at this stove and it pops up like, oh, this is a Maytag X series, it's like this.
Brand new, right.
Then you get more info. I think that will be...
you know what I think would be really cool?
Don't give away all of our ideas.
No, this has not been created yet. Now, this might be an issue, though, because you might be able to see people like this, but if you had glasses to actually see through the walls.
Oh.
That would, that's 20 years. How many years do you think that's going to take? I could see the electrical. I can see if there's any hidden mold behind there. I mean,
there is tech out there that I've seen that they've been using now for to view into the wall cavities to see things like electrical.
Okay.
Like, it's almost like an advanced stud finder.
Sweet.
They're pretty expensive, because I wanted to get one until I seen the price tag and I was like, yeah, okay, maybe not. But with anything, the cost will come down. There's I'm so tech focused when it comes to this. But I know, and this is why we have a good back and forth, that the tech isn't going to just solve it all. Like, it needs to be more than just tech to solve this issue.
Otherwise, tech can take over the whole industry, and we don't need realtors, right? And so that's a big debate as well.
Yeah.
Well, at what point people not going to care about realtors, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's the debate private versus realtor. Of course, I used to own a private marketing system.
Yeah.
And it was very popular, and we helped a lot of people sell their own home. Mm-hmm. And people loved it. They saved thousands of dollars in commission, and it was great. What do you think coming into this market? I mean, obviously the market's tanking. Let's not sugarcoat it.
No, it's
like a lot of, there's a lot of reports out there, and they'll say, oh, well, it's, they'll sugarcoat the whole thing. It's like, let's just be honest. The market's tanking. It already tanked.
Oh, 100%.
And where do you think, do you think people will be more apt to try to sell private now or stick with a realtor?
And that's, I know we've gone back and forth on this a lot, and it's a lot of people want to do it themselves. They want to save that money. And
they want to be in control. Like, I like having control. I want to know who's in my house. Yep. I want to know what they thought. I want to know feedback.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. There's people who don't. So, I mean, I guess personality would come into play here. But generally speaking...
Well, it's like anything now, too. Like, everyone... You can learn so much from just going on YouTube.
Oh, of course.
Finding, so let's go back 40 years and you had a plumbing issue. Unless you knew someone that knew how to fix it, you were hiring a plumber. Now you can just go on YouTube and find the instructions how to do it. Something go wrong with your car, you can do that.
Yeah.
So people are learning more than they've ever learned before have access to that.
They absolutely want to have control over different things in their lives, right?
Plus, at the end of the day, you want to save money.
Right.
And if you can save money, especially with the cost of everything right now, I get it. I see that there is a market for it. I also know that a lot of people it's strange territory, and coming up, especially as a young, going through school, I was never taught anything about real estate. I was never taught anything about mortgages. So it's scary. So as a lot of young buyers, they think that, we have to go with the realtor, someone that knows what they're doing, because they just weren't taught that.
So for buying, that would be a different situation. So buying...
Yeah.
Because if you're dealing directly with the homeowner, that homeowner is not going to have your interest at mind, right? It would be their own interest. When you're selling your own house, you want to sell your house.
Yes.
The buyer has no representation. So in that situation, that might be tricky. But as far as selling houses, selling your own home privately, there's a lot of education out there. There's a lot of resources out there.
Yeah.
The main thing, though, what's the main thing that private sellers really do not have access to, that there's a major control? Let's talk about control.
It's the data, 110%.
It's the data.
It's the sold
So they don't know really what to price their house at.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can hire an appraiser. It's $300. So that fixes that. But as far as getting the exposure they need, where's the big control issue there.
Well, when
We're opening a can of worms here.
Yeah, but realistically, it's true. Like MLS is the only game in town. Like,
Right.
and unless you're using MLS, that's it. Like it's a monopoly,
Right.
110%. And I know that's it's not a popular opinion, but it's true. There is no other
Well,
competition.
it's not a popular opinion by who?
by realtors.
Exactly. It's a popular opinion by the general public.
Yeah.
But
a lot of realtors are in the same boat too. Like when we look at things like access to data, like for example, us in Windsor, we just have access to Windsor board.
Right.
We can't see what houses in Toronto are selling for.
Right.
Why not? Why do we not have access to see what we're paying all these fees? Like we got educated on this. Why don't we have access to everything? We should.
Yeah.
And then if it's being limited with us, then how do you think it's going to be limited with people that aren't realtors?
Right.
Like it's
Right.
just
Yeah.
it's a vicious cycle.
It is the control of data.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to sell your house privately, you really have a bit of an issue there, right? So
Well, how do you know? Like especially when we look at the last year and every house was listed at the dreaded $299,000. That number is going to be burned. I'm having PTSD from this number. Because every single house was listed at $299, and it was like, okay, it sold for $560, and this one sold for $4 something, and
this one sold for $700, listed at $299.
Yeah, it was like $299 was just listed at $1 at that point.
Yeah.
So but people don't know. Like, how do you know? How do you know what that sold for? You don't have access unless you're using a realtor. So you're right. The data is a massive part of it, and if that data was available to the public, then I think you would see a lot more for sale by owners.
Yep.
It's almost a gatekeeper of some sorts.
I'm totally open to it. Like, honestly, I think there's a need for that. People should have options. But even now, the for sale by owner systems that are out there are kind of a mixture. They're like a hybrid, like you're on MLS, but you're private, and the realtors are confused, and the home sellers are kind of confused. It's not like private or fully listed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's really not very many options right now for home sellers.
There needs to be a better system.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But it's something we talk about all the time, and we're trying to come up with ideas, and it's going to take time. But I think there's concrete ideas that are coming forward, and I think we'll get there.
Yeah.
But I know this next year is probably going to be a little tough for a lot of people.
I can see probably half the realtors that got into it in the last 3 years, I would say, are going to be finding full-time jobs.
Well, that was the thing. It was easy
or moving
money.
back home.
Well, yeah, because when you look at, I think right now, what do we have? I think over 1,500 agents
Oh my
in
gosh.
Windsor, Essex County. So that's...
And for a while, it was around 900 to 1,000 was about the norm.
Yeah, it blew up.
I think, 400 joined in the last 3 years.
It's been wild. Like I know when I started getting into this, I think I started my schooling about 4 years ago on this, and it wasn't like this. And but by the time I got into it, it was just a madhouse.
Yeah.
And it wasn't what I was expecting at all. Like I was ready to get into the negotiating, the back and forth, and it was just this craziness.
No negotiating, yeah.
But I think we're getting back to some normalcy now. I think we're finally getting there. The only problem is interest rates are so high right now that it's just going to be a trickle down effect.
Yeah.
Especially when all these people that got their mortgages 4 or 5 years ago at these sub 2% even, when those come due, there's going to be a lot of hurt out there.
It's going to be a shit show.
It will.
Maybe that's another podcast.
I think we should. We should just save that for another time.
We'll do the depressing podcast, and then in between we'll have like a little intermission with some pet videos.
Some dopamine kicks.
Right in between that, because that'll be a very depressing podcast.
Well, there was a little bit of good news this morning coming out of the U.S.
Okay.
I know there were some reports that inflation was starting to slow a little bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not all doom and gloom, but we'll see. These next few months will dictate a lot. But,
yeah, for sure.
But I think I think we're going to come out ahead of. We're going to come out ahead of this. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're speculating that.
I'm a little optimistic. I know it's going to be tough times.
You're not saying that with like too much authority. Cautiously
optimistic.
Yeah.
Cautiously optimistic.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Awesome.
But we'll save that for another time.
Yeah. Well, it was great chatting. See you next time.
Bye, everyone.